This is Josephine Fang. We're interviewing her on the 14th of April, 2012, in her home in Belmont. I'm Emily with Annie. What was life like during the Cold War?
Some people even thought of digging their own air raid shelters or so in their homes. Be prepared not to do anything that could damage the security of the country or so. But otherwise life went on as usual.
What did you fear during the Cold War?
Well, any attack from Russia, that was the thing that would have been and you were careful, but people were busy and you had to do your work. So I personally did not experience any special fear. You hoped and prayed that things would work out all right.
Did you know about Joseph McCarthy, and did you hear of any accusations?
I heard that was the so-called witch hunt, and the people who suffered, I think, was the entertainment business, especially actors who were supposed to be, they were blacklisted if they were considered communists. And it is not quite clear of who told the truth or not. But I think it went a bit overboard because people were also damaged. It was unnecessary, in my opinion.
Did you witness any accusations in your personal life, or was it mostly just from the news?
I did not know anybody personally who was in a situation that he was accused. No, I only had my information from the news.
In making the decision to come to the United States, what was your idea of the American dream?
America seemed like the promised land to me, where people were not subject. In America, the individual had rights, and I had rights. And for the first time I went in New York to the Macy's store, and I couldn't make up my mind. Rows and rows of clothing hanging on. I've never seen anything like that. It was just, for me, it was just unbelievable to see such an abundance of things, and people were smiling and saying hello, stranger. That it was quite an eye opener, and the Statue of Liberty became on a ship. That was a beautiful sight at that time.
So what was the process of coming to America?
So I was given a postgraduate fellowship by the Catholic University in Washington, D.C. and sponsored, and I came under the sponsorship of the Institute of International Education. I met my husband at Catholic University and we got married, and I did not return as I should have after 1 year. And so the kindness of a government lawyer who was the president of the Ohio State University Alumni Association, he put in a Senate and House bill for me that I could stay, and I was eventually granted the stay. So I'm in the congressional record, and President Eisenhower signed my bill, and I was allowed to stay I didn't get a citizenship yet. It was like permanent residence. The citizenship came later. So it is a long process and a very thorough process and much anxiety, but fortunately we succeeded.
The new technology and new music, what was life like during that time?
You manage with things that you have. You don't know yet what will be in the future. Nobody dreamed at that time that one day we can copy things, we can submit and transmit it on a internet, that you have your own cell phone walking around with your phone, that you have a radio and can listen. That was all unknown at that time.
So, what was it like to be raising so many children during the 1950s? I know a lot of families were smaller, about 2 or 3 kids.
You could always afford the basic staple food: flour, eggs, milk, bread, simple cuts of meat, vegetables. That was not expensive. We did not have luxury foods. Only when children were sick, they got some Coca-Cola or ginger ale. We did not even have orange juice. We drank lemonades, which was also vitamin C but cheaper. And I bought in bulk vegetable cases of oranges or apples. We went apple picking, and also the prices were lower, and although the income was also low, it was everything not in such high.
What was it like to be a working woman during the 1950s, surrounded by society full of stay-at-home mothers?
Well, it started that more and more women worked because the income, and also more were educated. And like my husband always felt, and we felt, that you have an education, you should use it. It's for a woman, it saved me too, that I was able to go out and use, and was not depending on my husband to talk to me, and I could do some productive work that I knew.
Did you ever feel pressure to be a stay-at-home mom?
In some way, yes, but not too much. But because in the 50s there were still quite a few stay-at-home moms, and the schools needed them to be volunteers, and some of the neighbors, they came over, mothers, for a coffee break or so, and have a cup of coffee with the neighbors. But
What was it like living in Washington, D.C. during the Civil Rights Movement?
it was a bit frightening for me. What was frightening when the violence and the looting started, and I remember that, and I tried to, the safety was my issue, because that the children were not hurt. The violence was, it didn't help that the television showed the looting in cities like in, so that I remember it sometimes they even forbade to show the pictures. But we had neighbors, like our Methodist minister, he went down to Alabama and walked on these marches.
Was life during the Vietnam War any different from life during the Cold War?
Yes, because for me it was the time when our oldest son, Uncle David, was ready to be drafted. And at that time was a lottery, and I was very anxious about it. And of course many students went to Canada to avoid the draft at that time.